Hello, everyone. I'm Cassandra.
And I'm Mom.
And this is Millennial and Mom. And today we are back to talk about Love After Lockup, Season 3, Episode 17, Two Body Bags. Now, they can only be talking about Dylan and Heather.
I mean, really, take your pick.
Or Lindsay and Scott, somebody. So, let's get into the review.
So, let's start off with Shawn and Destiny. They're still at the park, and now Shawn has proposed. And Destiny's like, are you serious? Oh my God. Now, was she trying to get a tear in her eye? Because it didn't work.
Well, she had to give some emotion because we already knew she was going to say yes.
Well, like you said, she was depressed. She just came from that court hearing where she may have to have 7 more years. So marriage proposals, none of that was on her mind. But she did end up saying yes. And Shawn was like, we're going to be so happy, all this stuff. I'm like, are you going to be happy, Shawn? Are you? Because there's an issue of Kelly, your kid's mom, that's still part of this equation.
Well, how's that going to lead him to not being happy? Whether he's going to be with Destiny or the kid's mom, he going to be with somebody at the end of the day.
Well, he's not going to be happy because, as the show progressed, Shawn wants Destiny to meet with Kelly so they could get on the same page and maybe smooth things over. And Destiny was like, you know what? You might need 2 body bags, or your baby mama might get beat up. Don't say nothing. And Shawn was just like, just step back in a position as if like he's not going to say nothing. I'm like, wait a minute. You can't just let her come in and beat up your kid's mom because you want to see your kids. And that's the route to see them. So,
well, it's not like he's going to be quiet the whole time because Shawn, I think, has a little bit of a backbone and self-esteem. So he just wants them to like each other so he can see his kids. But the problem he failed to realize is, and this goes back to last season when he was trying to find someone in prison that is not going to lie to him, yet he told all these lies. So of course Destiny's going to feel a type of way, even though that I think that's the kind of person she is. She don't want to be bothered with all the lies, the baby mamas and stuff, because it kind of seems like you still have a thing with her, which is true. And of course, the baby mom still has a thing for him, and she feels a little bit slated because she's getting all these things, and her kids and the baby mom got nothing. So it's not going to go the way that Shawn thinks, even Destiny thinks, because Destiny thinks that Shawn's baby mama is not about that life, but
we about to see. Now we have John and Christiana, and I'm still taken aback of just the whole situation in general. From the mom and the sister moving in, to Christiana no longer being a resident at the halfway house, to now she got picked up because it's Bonnie and Clyde and she's resting. And John decides that she needs a day to herself. Actually, they need a day together. So he sets them up for her so they can consummate the marriage. Now, to me, I think that's the least of your concerns because...
Well, no, that's on the top of his concerns because
okay,
when she got out of jail, this all ties back to the beginning of the first season for them. All he was worried about was getting married with the dress that he picked out, and then after consummating the marriage in the back of the truck.
John and Christiana eventually go to a hotel for the night where they consummate their marriage, and it was
forgot the most important part of that whole scene before they get into taking off their clothes.
Okay.
When they were driving to the motel, John had some alcohol, some wine in the car. I'm like, she just relapsed, and all John is thinking about is getting some boom boom because he hasn't had any boom boom. That is just so wrong, and it just reminds me of why I didn't like him from the beginning of the season, because John is only worried about John. I mean, yeah, he might like Christiana, but if he really loved Christiana, he would, turn her in by now, because he's a felon, she's a felon, they can get in trouble. He can't even see her when he goes to jail. So I'm like,
well, again, that goes back
I feel bad.
That goes back to enabling. The bubbly was to help them have a better night. And clearly they did, because we see them the next morning and they go back to the house after they're all happy and lovey. And that's when the sister explains, like, I love my sister, but
if she wants to stay one more night, I'm gonna have to call the popo.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, sis? I'm with you. Even though you didn't want to find her last time, I'm with you because she needs help. The next couple on the list is Jessica and Maurice. More so Jessica because that's who we saw this episode. And we see them driving. You know what? Even Mom notices every time they're driving in Vegas, they always go along that freeway that takes them up and down. Like, we know that it's Vegas, just get to where you're going. They eventually end up going downtown, aka Town Square for us, to go bridal shopping. But before they even go in there, she really is thinking about having her sister there at the wedding. And like, oh, well, maybe if my sister knows that I'm pregnant, she might come. I'm like,
I don't know. Depends on what their issues were, because remember the previous season, like, she was stalking her sister from afar. Well, maybe I shouldn't say stalking. Looking at her sister like, oh, there's her house right there. Oh, did she see me? So whatever concern they have, it must stem around Maurice and Maurice being in the prison and how she met Maurice, or just the whole gamut. Well, the mom said, both of you are strong-willed women, and I raised strong-willed women. I'm like, okay, but, if they don't care for each other right now, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of a sad situation. But when they got to the bridal shop, it's her mom and her best friend that comes. When she tries on the first dress, I'm like, why'd they do that to her? Why'd they put her in a dress that they know doesn't fit, doesn't even clip from the back, and you can tell,
they need a storyline.
I know, but it was just so like, why? So, she's like, oh, it's a little tight. I'm like, okay.
A little.
And she eventually tells her mom that she's 6 weeks pregnant. Now, she's like, I told Maurice I wouldn't tell the secret, but little does she know, Maurice already spilled the beans.
And I was kind of surprised. The mom was more excited than the dad was.
You were? No, the mom, I've said this before, has always been Team Jessica. The dad is always like the one like with the eye. So as Jessica goes in to try other dresses on, she comes out with a dress that fits her perfect,
right,
front to back. And I'm like, see, you should have this on the first time. It's so nice. And she looked really good. She looked like a princess, like her mom said.
Yeah, I just want to see her done up, just do it right. And I'm excited for the next episode because I want to see the sister there. And then, we get to the scene and we see somebody with some red hair. I was like, who is that?
Yeah.
Who is that? And then we saw the makeup. I was like, no, for real, who is that? I didn't know who it was till we saw Milea. I was like, is that Chevelle?
Well,
I mean, the hair looked nice and the makeup was done, but when they were showing the makeup from
confessional
her scene into the confessional, it was like light and then it was dark. I don't know if it was the setting in the confessional or maybe her makeup was too light, but I was like, Chevelle, we were almost there. Like, is she trying to prove something to Quaylin from all the way from Kansas?
Well, you know what? I'm not going to talk about her choice of makeup or her choice of hair, but it did look like it could be your sister. Now, when we see Chevelle, she's making lunch or whatever for Milea. It's cute, Milea wanted to help her mom make the sandwich. She's like, oh, I know what comes next on the peanut butter and jelly. She's like, what? She's like, cheese? I was like, ew.
Oh, to some little kids, that's how they work.
I know. I was hoping like maybe a string cheese for her lunch. Maybe that's what she meant. But so she's having a conversation with Milea about Quaylin and how she feels. And then when we see her in her confessional, Chevelle, she's like, Milea really wants to have a dad. Like, she longs for a dad. I wanted to be married, have a husband. I'm like, no. You may have longed for a husband and everything else, but Milea longing for a dad, I think you put that on yourself to give Milea a dad and try to put that on Quaylin. Now, he may have said he wanted to be a family, but the way his actions are showing right now, it feels like you're pushing him into this process and he's not cool with it right now.
I mean, yeah, pushing him into the process, but at the same time, he's kind of ghosting her. Shout out to Tyrese, because he hasn't talked to her in a week, hasn't returned her calls or messages or anything. Like, okay, yeah, go out there, take some time for yourself, clear your mind. But dang, you're not gonna hit me up or anything so I can know that you're safe or what you're doing? You still my man.
That's true.
Apparently.
That's true. He could say hello in the text. It only takes a few seconds for that. But in the next scene, we see Quaylin meet up with his sisters. I can't remember what their names are. It all starts with a Q. They're cute young ladies. They're out having a drink with their brother, trying to get him to loosen up and see the sights and see what's going on in Houston, right? So while they're talking, the baby sister's like, you know what? I have a friend that's coming to join us. So when she comes, they're like, yeah, don't you like her? Don't you see? And Quaylen's like, yeah, pretty much. I got from this scene, like, she's cool. I don't think he was really wanting
to push up on her.
Until he got that phone call or two from Chevelle.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, so we know that the family doesn't like Chevelle because of how she is. We get that.
Mm-hmm.
But, even though Chevelle's pushy too, now his sisters are being extra pushy with bringing the girl that they think, has the looks, has the means. I'm like, could y'all explain what the means is? Because Quaylen is still trying to get his life together.
Mm-hmm.
And why would you set him up with someone he doesn't even know and he doesn't have a job yet?
Well, technically, if you set someone up with somebody, they probably don't know him. So that's how that works. But
I'm sure they know well enough he just got out of jail and that's why she's on the show right now.
That's true, too. But then the baby sister decides to take a picture, just to have, just to whatever.
No, just because she knows that Chevelle was going to be on her thing and she took a picture, posted out really quick, and that's why Chevelle made the call because Quaylen wasn't hitting her up. And if he just told her what it was, like, I'm just going out with my sisters, so she could at least have a heads up and not be ambushed. I mean, does she have a right to kind of press him? Yeah, because he was being sneaky and shady.
Yeah, he was. So when he got back to the table, he looked like he was, RTG? Ready to go.
And just ready to
mingle.
Just do his own thing. And I'm just like, this is not going to end well.
Moving on to Scott and Lindsay. So today, Lindsay is having a friend come over. This friend also was in prison with her. Her name is Tarabelle or a Tarabelle, something like that.
I was going to say Trebella, something.
And in confessionals, Scott was saying, yeah, Lindsay's friend is coming and I guess you helped her through the trying times and things like that. So we'll have to see how she is when she gets here. So when Tarabelle comes, before she even gets in the house, she does a confession like, yeah, Lindsay likes a man with money and she likes to find her things. Mm-hmm. And producers are like,
want someone to provide for her.
Mm-hmm. And if they don't, she's out of here. They meet up, Lindsay and Tarabelle. It's like, oh, I'm so happy to see you, blah, blah, blah. Scott takes himself outside. It's like, oh, it's nice to meet you, but I'll step aside, let you all have a little time, then I'll step back in. And Tara gave Lindsay all this makeup. I guess she had collected makeup while Lindsay was still inside. She's like, oh, this is like over $200 worth of makeup. She's like, oh, this is nothing. And see, when Lindsay said that, I'm like, now see, she does put value on things. Like, oh, like this must be 5, this must be 10. So did she send her snapshots out of magazines to her friend or what she wanted like she did with Scott?
Probably not, because they were both in jail together, so she already knew what to get.
Now Lindsay takes Tara up to the room where Miley Grace is going to go. And it looked like they went up to like an attic. I thought Lindsay said that her daughter's room is going to be in the garage.
Well, now it's going to be in the attic and it's going to be designed for her daughter.
And when she said that, I was like, oh, so designed with what? Because downstairs, Scott doesn't have a design like you wanted it anyways. It's a bunch of futons with 2 dogs on it. So it's like, what are you talking about? So as Lindsay and Tara are talking, they're saying how, Scott don't have his stuff together and just this wasn't the way it was supposed to be. And just all the things that Lindsay was complaining about.
Like the letter that she was trying to have wasn't coming to fruition.
Right. And so Tara's like, what are you going to do about it? She's like, I don't know. I just have to wait and see. But then what happens? They start kissing. Clearly, Tara is one of those secrets that she's keeping from Scott.
Yep, and he was already being skeptical about it. So when he actually finds out all this is going to go on, it's just going to be another thing on the list. But who knows? They might become sister wives for the time being.
So Heather and Dylan, I mean, honestly, where do you start with Heather? Is Heather, is she off her rocker or is it just me?
Or is she just acting? Can she be serious?
She's not acting. And if she is no.
No, you can even say that.
I can't even get it all the way out. So they finally left the DMV and Dylan's in the car. And now Heather went down that wrong street trying to get away from producers, right?
Knock all the cameras down. Take your mic down, Dylan.
take it off. So they get it. It's like, you can't go down the street, Heather. You're going to get us killed. Slow down. So Heather turns, goes through an apartment complex, and Dylan said as soon as she slowed down enough, he snatched the keys out the ignition and put the car in park. And here go Heather. Beep, 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 beep. Give me my keys. Give me my keys.
I was just like, how did production catch up with them so fast?
I'm like, they had to, because they know, just like Dylan said in his confessionals. And see, we're all rowdy too, because how can you not be talking about Heather? I think they had to catch up to them because, A, for the safety of Dylan, one, and they know he's on parole, so it doesn't matter what Heather does. Dylan's going to get sent back up. This is only day 2. So when Dylan gets out the car, like I said, she's blowing the horn, and she rolls the window down like, I can't stand you. F you. Just put the phone through the crack in the window. He's like, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
I live with you. She didn't care.
She didn't care. And it was honestly, okay, it is kind of entertaining. Not going to lie. But it's really actually sad, and it's more so sad for Dylan because this is the second day out. He didn't really even do anything. He was just joking with her, even though he wasn't wrong. He was joking with her, and she is just on 1,000 times 10 for no reason. And any little thing that could be done, he can go back to jail, because Heather, I believe, will be quick to spin a story and get Dylan sent back up there, and he has no one else to talk to. So he had to borrow production's phone because he needed to Uber. I'm like, production, y'all chased him all the way down there. You couldn't give him a ride somewhere.
Well, I think that Dylan wanted to have peace of mind. So I think they would have gave him an Uber anyways. I mean, who else paid for it? It had to be production. He don't work. He don't have money. But when Dylan makes it to his destination, he goes inside a cafe.
Well, before he gets to the destination, Mom, he is boo-hooing in the car. I felt so bad
He's
for Dylan.
stressed.
Like, he said, this is not what I expected.
Right.
When I came out of jail. And I could just imagine, like, if I was ever to go to jail and I met somebody and then this is what I'm getting put through day 2, like, I got to go. Even though I'm on parole, but I got to go.
And, right. So when he gets to his destination, he meets up with his mom and his aunt. Now, I think he looks exactly like his mom. And I was surprised. I'm like, wow, so your mom lives in the same city and you decided to live with Heather? And when he starts to talk about the relationship with his mom, how his mom and his dad are his best friends. They've been divorced since they were 4. And I think that was a nice connection that he still had between both of them, because, you know, sometimes divorces are nasty. But he wanted to say how, you know, his mom has always been supportive. He's only seen her a couple times when he was in prison because, and this is why Heather's not acting, I couldn't get it out. His mom tried to visit. Heather would go, in Dylan's words, ballistic because she was taking up the time with him. I'm like, now see, now this just goes back to Aunt Diane and just the joking in general. Like, Heather can't take a joke, and Heather really truly wants Dylan all to herself, and that is a problem. It is more than the normal, oh, you know, it's me and you, is kind of falls under the if I can't have you, no one will. I mean, isolating your mom for visiting you, like, you can take a day. That was
weekend.
I felt that was an issue. But the mom said, you know what, and the aunt too, we love you, we'll always be there for you. You know, does she know you're with us? He said, no, you can stay with us. And I really hope he gets that parole change. He gets with his mom and his aunt and sets on a different path, because Heather is just not going to be positive.
Yeah, and he knows that, but at the same time, for some reason, probably like Stockholm Syndrome-esque, he kind of doesn't want to leave Heather alone, because she just showed so much loyalty to him, just so much love towards him. He doesn't want to let that go, but I'm like, you know, she did what she did for you in prison, the money, the phone calls, the pillow talk, all that stuff. You out, she crazy, it's time to part ways. All right, everyone, so that was the end of this week's episode, and it went by really fast, but it had a lot of great content, and I cannot believe we are already on the season finale for this show next week.
Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to it, like I always am, because just the content in this Love After Lockup series has given me everything I've been looking for. And with the finale coming up, you know, we saw most of the couples minus Tyrese. I wonder if he's going to be there with Tina.
We don't need to see Tyrese, and her name was not Tina. I can't think what her name is now, but
okay,
we don't need to see
whoever.
Anyways, thank y'all so much for watching this week's episode. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought about this week's episode and Heather and Dylan. Make sure you guys share this video to other people who watch Love After Lockup, and you become one of our subscribers if you haven't yet.
Thank you all for watching, and as always, live simply, be grateful.